I almost spat out my coffee this morning when I read that a $1 trillion asset manager might be jumping onto the XRP Ledger. And yes, you heard that right. A company managing over $1 trillion is going to do something huge with Ripple's tech. And I had to do a double take. Now, this is the kind of plot twist in the crypto world that makes you go, wait. Is this real? Well, not only is it real, it's actually one of those moments that made my heart skip a beat, but in a good way. Now, I'm just a regular guy who happened to buy XRP way back when it was just a few cents. Now, I've held it through the crazy ups, the downs, and all of the wild rumors. Remember when some folks swore that XRP would hit $500 overnight? Yeah, I was there, popcorn in hand. So for years, I've been telling everyone who would listen that one day the big institutions will come around and use this stuff. Just wait. And for years, a lot of people rolled their eyes at me. Well, today, I've got a story that feels like a bit of a personal victory lap. It's about Franklin Templeton, a name that your grandparents might recognize from their retirement accounts, teaming up with Ripple and DBS, one of Asia's banking giants, to do something on the XRP Ledger that I honestly only dreamed about before. Now, if you're in crypto, or even if you just like a good old underdog story, stick around, because this is the part where years of maybe someday finally turns into it's happening now. And trust me, by the end of this, you're going to see why this isn't just another headline. It's more like a sneak peek into the future of how traditional finance and crypto might dance together. So, picture this. I'm just sipping my morning coffee, scrolling through the news, and I see Ripple partners with Franklin Templeton and DBS. And I almost do a spit take, right? My first thought was, nah, this has to be clickbait. But no, it is legit. Franklin Templeton, which manages something like over $1 trillion in assets, has signed on with Ripple and DBS Bank to launch what they call tokenized finance solutions. Now, that phrase I should say, might sound like corporate buzz talk, but let me break it down in human language, because the cool factor is actually hiding behind all of the jargon. Basically, Franklin Templeton has this very boring sounding thing. It's a US dollar short-term market fund. Boring, as in stable, safe, the kind of fund where big institutions park cash to earn just a little interest. Normally, if I wanted to at least invest in that fund, then I'd actually have to go through old school processes, maybe fill out a few forms, wait for trading hours, wire some money, blah blah. And by the time that it settles, I've probably died of boredom. But not anymore. They're tokenizing this fund on the XRP Ledger. In other words, they're turning shares of that fund into a crypto token that lives on a blockchain. They're calling this token SG Benji, right? Basically SG BENJI. So what matters is that SG Benji actually represents a slice of a real regulated money fund, except now you can hold it like any crypto in a wallet. Now, here is where it gets spicier. At the same time, Ripple has its own stablecoin now, Ripple USD, or RLUSD for short, which is basically a digital dollar that lives on the XRP Ledger too. So, we have two things here then. A stablecoin, think of it like digital cash that doesn't swing up and down in value. And a tokenized fund, think of it like a little digital mutual fund share that actually earns interest. Now DBS, the big bank in Singapore, says, hey, let's list both of these on our crypto exchange. Yes, a major bank with its own crypto exchange. The future is weird and I am here for it. Now, the exchange is called DDEX, and by listing both the stablecoin RLUSD and the SG Benji fund token, well, they're letting their clients trade one for the other on the fly. Now, why would anyone want to swap between a stablecoin and a fund token? Well, here's a scenario. Imagine the crypto market's doing its usual roller coaster thing. One day your portfolio is going to the moon. The next day it's in the trenches, right? If you're sitting on, let's say, a whole bunch of XRP or Bitcoin and you sense a storm is brewing, well, you might want to move into something safer for a while. Traditionally, you'd probably have swapped into a stablecoin like USDT or USDC, basically go to cash, to avoid all of that volatility. Now, I've done that myself during kind of heart attack market drops, parked in stablecoins like I'm hiding under a mattress. Safe, right? Yes. Earning you absolutely anything? No, not at all. It's kind of like moving your money to a checking account temporarily, right? You won't lose any value, hopefully outside of inflation, but you're not going to gain anything either. Now, imagine instead that you could swap your crypto into this SG Benji token. It's backed by a legit money market fund, the kind that might earn, I don't know, let's say a few percentage points a year in interest. Now, it's kind of like parking your money in a savings account or a short-term T-bill fund, but you're actually still in crypto realm, right? On a crypto exchange, and you can get back into crypto instantly whenever you want. So that's kind of what this whole setup offers here. It's basically having a picnic, or at least a kind of panic room, I should say, for your crypto portfolio that still pays you while you wait out the storm. And you don't have to wire money out of your bank or wait 2 days for the fund to settle or any of the old-fashioned jazz. It's all tokenized so that trades happen 24/7 within minutes. Think of it like this, right? Remember arcades back in the day? You would switch your dollars for tokens to play games. Now, imagine if those arcade tokens could magically gain interest while you're taking a break from gaming. Well, that's kind of what's happening here. RLUSD is your dollar, the stablecoin that's ready and steady in value, right? And SG Benji is your token that lets you kind of play in a relatively safe game, earning yield in a money market fund. And you can swap between them instantly at the arcade counter, which, in this case, is DBS's digital exchange, whenever you want. There's no waiting for the arcade to open at 9 a.m. next business day, right? The arcade is open all day, every day. This is wild, right? And as a guy who's kind of sat through weekends, kind of biting nails, waiting for markets that are crashing, and, I just can't move my funds until Monday, right? I can't overstate how huge 24/7 liquidity at least in a traditionally slow asset, actually is. Now, I know, right? I'm excited, but seriously, this is like the crypto Swiss Army knife for investors. So picture an institutional investor, let's say some big shot kind of fund manager, right? Who holds a whole bunch of Bitcoin and Ethereum, etc. Now they're nervous about the short-term turbulence. Maybe the Fed is announcing something tomorrow, who knows? So instead of just kind of going to cash, stable coins in this case, and twiddling your thumbs, they can actually slide into SG Benji, right? Get a nice little yield from a fund managed by essentially the same people who manage grandma's retirement fund, and when the sky is clear, slide right back into Bitcoin or whatever, all on the same exchange without missing a beat. Now, and I should add that because DBS is involved, this isn't some sketchy DeFi protocol with a silly kind of food name either. It's a regulated bank platform. That's a big deal. Trust is a big deal, especially institutions. Now, DBS's team has basically said that tokenization isn't futuristic anymore. It's a practical tool that can make markets more liquid and efficient. In other words, this is real, folks, not sci-fi. Now, at this point, you might be wondering, okay, cool, but game changer? Really? Don't take it from just me. Ripple's trading and markets leadership has called this a turning point, combining a tokenized money market fund with a liquid and regulated stablecoin like RLUSD. It opens the door to a more efficient trading and a better liquidity market in the capital markets. The key idea here is that investors can seamlessly rebalance between stablecoins and yield-bearing funds within a single ecosystem. And that's exactly the sort of jargon that actually translates to, we've made moving money faster and easier, and big players are going to like it. And check this out. DBS is even looking to letting people use SG Benji as collateral for loans. So imagine that you hold a bunch of SG Benji tokens because you like that sweet low-risk yield, but you need some cash temporarily. Well, you might soon be able to actually borrow against those tokens, either from DBS or via a partner platform. So you get liquidity without selling your position in the fund. Now that's kind of like taking a loan against your stock portfolio, but at least in the crypto world. Now for us XRP old-timers, this is like watching the TradFi and crypto worlds not just shake hands, but start working together on concrete solutions. It's almost poetic. Now, before I go any further, and especially before anyone gets way too hyped, let me drop a necessary reality check. Now, this might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your own responsibility and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, so the disclaimer is done. Let's get back to the excitement and a little bit of a personal reflection. So as someone who's been in the so-called XRP army for years, I can't help feeling a little bit vindicated today. I mean, Franklin Templeton isn't just some random startup, right? We're talking about a firm that's been around for decades, managing the kind of money that has more zeros than I can count. When a player like that says, yep, we're comfortable tokenizing our fund on the XRP Ledger, it's like a stamp of approval on this technology that I've believed in for so long. You can cue the happy tear rolling down my cheek. Okay, maybe not literally, but you do get it. Now, I remember debating with a friend in 2018. He said, why are you so hung up on banks and institutions using crypto? They're never going to do it. And I said, just watch. They will, because the tech makes sense. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. Now, for a while, I admit, I started to wonder if I was just a crazy dreamer, right? The big partnerships that Ripple announced over the years sometimes didn't translate into immediate fireworks. Some of us early XRP holders had moments of doubt, but this right here, this feels like the real deal, not hype, right? It's a concrete use case, a stablecoin and a fund token on the XRP Ledger used by actual institutions to solve an actual problem, liquidity and yield management. It's the kind of story that I can take back to that friend and go, see, it's happening. Maybe not how we imagined it exactly, but it is happening. And the best part is, this isn't just about XRP or Ripple kind of patting themselves on the back. This is actually part of a bigger movement in 2025 where suddenly the suits and the ties are getting into blockchain in a serious way. We're seeing banks, asset managers, even public institutions dabbling in crypto tech, not because it's cool, but because it's useful. Now, tokenization, putting real-world assets on a blockchain, was a buzzword for many years. People said it was the future, but it always seemed just around the corner. Now, it's like we've actually turned the corner and tokenization is standing right there waving hello. Hi, I'm here, and I'm actually working now. Let me give you another example of why this could matter for regular people down the line, right? Today, it's a money market fund for big investors in Singapore. Tomorrow, it could be bonds, stocks, real estate funds, who knows? All tokenized so that they trade faster, cheaper, 24/7. Maybe one day, you'll be able to tokenize your house. The point is that this Franklin Templeton DBS Ripple thing isn't happening in a vacuum, right? It's part of a trend that is emerging, the merging of traditional finance with crypto tech. And for me, seeing the XRP Ledger in that mix is like finding out that your favorite indie band is now headlining a huge festival, right? You feel proud, you feel a little amazed, and you want to tell everyone, I knew them before they were cool. Though XRP was always kind of cool. Don't at me at that one. Now, I should mention that if all of this talk about XRP Ledger, stablecoins, and tokenized funds has your head spinning just a bit, you're not going to be alone. The concepts are new and kind of a bit nerdy, and that's kind of why we have an awesome community. Here's a shameless plug. We've got a free educational Discord server. The link is in the description below. It's kind of where we break down news like this and chat about crypto in plain English. It's super chill, and you can ask all of the questions that you want. There's no judgment. I hang out there too, so if you don't quite get what you kind of, at least what a repo trade on a blockchain actually means, or why being on the XRP Ledger matters, you can come on over and we'll all hash it out together. And on the topic of being in the crypto trenches, I also want to be fully transparent with you. I do use a couple of different exchanges for my own trading and rebalancing, and two that I've been using lately are BitGet and Blowfin. Now, I like to keep my options open, and these platforms have been pretty solid for me, I need to say, or when I need to say, or at least when I need to, let's say, convert maybe some XRP into, a stable coin or explore some other trading of some new tokens. So if you're looking for a place to trade and want to support the channel here at the same time, then I've got an affiliate link for both BitGet and Blowfin down in the description. Now, it doesn't cost you anything extra, but if you do sign up, trade, and use them, it actually helps me out massively. It's kind of like a win-win. You get a solid platform, and I get a little kickback from the exchange for promoting you or sending you to them, right? Of course, you've got to use whatever exchange that you are comfortable with, and be mindful of all of the risks as always. All right, okay, so that's a little ad break over, and thanks for listening to it. It's a little side note, I guess. Let's get back to the story, and specifically my story as an XRP holder. What really kind of struck me about this news is how it changes the narrative, right? For the longest time, the storyline was XRP will revolutionize cross-border payments, and banks will use XRP to move money in seconds, and it will replace SWIFT. That was the grand vision, and to some extent, it's happening in parts, right? Ripple has banks using its tech, though not necessarily XRP for everything. But here we have a totally different angle. XRP's blockchain, that's the XRP Ledger, being used to modernize a classic investment product. And it's like finding a new superpower that you didn't really know that your hero even had, right? Cross-border payments are cool, but tokenizing a money market fund and enabling all of these new tricks, instant trading, using it for loan collateral, 24/7 access, is kind of like a whole new chapter. It broadens the scope of what XRP Ledger can do in the eyes of the world. And for me, personally, it's a relief to see XRP in headlines for something positive and innovative, right? Let's kind of be real here. XRP has had some pretty rough years. Regulatory uncertainties, being in the news for lawsuits, more than the actual tech. But 2025 is shaping up to be the kind of a redemption arc, right? We got past a lot of the legal drama. Exchanges started relisting XRP, and now we have this kind of marquee partnership, right? If this were a movie, this part would probably be that triumphant montage with upbeat music where the underdog team starts winning games. Okay, maybe I'm just getting carried away, but it's that genuinely the kind of vibe that I'm reading into this. I also want to manage expectations, because this doesn't mean that the price of XRP is instantly going to go to the moon because Franklin Templeton is here. Now, I know that some people will scream XRP $1,000 confirmed at any kind of bit of good news, but that is not me. Instead, I see this as laying foundations. This is like the infrastructure being built that could make the whole ecosystem more valuable over time. Now, the more real-world assets and big players that use a blockchain, the more confidence and utility there is in that system. Over time, yeah, you can translate to value accruing. But I'm not here to make price predictions. I'm here to appreciate the journey and what it means for the long haul. All right, so stepping off my soapbox for a second here, let's zoom out. Why should anyone outside of the XRP holders really care here? Well, it's because it's a sign of the times, right? If you told me 2 or 3 years ago that a bank like DBS would actively be offering crypto token trading of a Franklin Templeton fund on a public ledger nonetheless, I'd have been skeptical. Yet here we are, right? It shows that crypto isn't a fringe experiment anymore for big finance, right? It's becoming a tool in their toolkit. It's being normalized, and I think that's a necessary step before we see any kind of mass adoption or the kind of stability that invites even more people in. Now, we always kind of talk about how institutions will come. Well, they are walking through the door one by one and sometimes hand in hand. As an early XRP adopter, days like this are what I live for. It's not just about seeing a green number in my portfolio. It's about the validation. It's about being able to say, see, this stuff does have a place in the real world, and it's not all magic internet money with no use. It's also pretty cool that this news is coming out of Singapore. Asia has been ahead of the curve in a lot of fintech and crypto integrations. DBS has built trust in their region. If this model succeeds, well, stablecoins plus tokenized securities in one platform, it could spread to other markets. I wouldn't be surprised if in a few years, banks in the United States or Europe try something similar. Regulators willing, of course. And let's not forget Ripple themselves benefit here by showcasing their tech. They launched RLUSD not too long ago, and they're already getting this high profile kind of use case. Now, at least that's kind of probably going to draw in a lot more attention and maybe even more stablecoin volume to the XRPL. So if RLUSD gets liquid and popular, it might even start showing up on other exchanges or in other use cases. It's all interconnected. So, what's the takeaway from my little morning excitement episode then? Well, for me, it's this. Patience can pay off. Sometimes the way that we imagine things isn't exactly how they actually play out, but that doesn't mean that they won't happen. I always kind of pictured banks using XRP for remittances. Instead, I see a bank and a huge asset manager using XRP's technology to reimagine investing. Right? That's equally awesome, right? If not more. It tells me that the people building this tech, and yes, us holders supporting it, were also kind of onto something all along. Right? We're witnessing the lines between traditional and crypto finance blur right before our eyes. And as someone who's been straddling those lines, one foot in old school finance reality, one foot in crypto dreamland, I'm just happy. I'm happy to see progress. I'm happy to see collaboration, and I'm happy to share it all with you. Now, I hope that my story and explanation here has made this news a little bit more relatable, maybe, right? Maybe it even got you a little excited about where all of this could lead in the future. So at the very least, you got to kind of watch a grown man almost spit out his coffee on himself out of sheer disbelief. That's got to be worth it, right? Well, I'm just kidding. Kidding anyway, right? Now, I'm going to, of course, be keeping tabs on all of this kind of Franklin, DBS, Ripple thing unfolding, right? Because it's definitely going to, and of course, I'm going to definitely update you all in the future videos if there are any future developments with this, like if they actually let people start taking loans against those tokens. I'm super curious to see that in action. The world of crypto never kind of stays still, and honestly, it's stories like this that keep me glued to my screen and sometimes cause minor caffeine-related messes. So if you've enjoyed coming along on this journey, make sure to smash that like button for me, hit subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next one.